Photosensitivity warning, viewer discretion is advised. Many months ago, the world was blessed with a video full of enriching but nonetheless cursed info about the mysterious rabbit hole known as the world of KOF ROM hacks. Lich Massacre paved the way to a promising and enlightening journey for all fighting game kind. But when everyone needed him most, Lich Massacre disappeared for months. Oh where up in the heavens are our dear KOF ROM hacks? The people pleaded, when suddenly, out of thin air, Lich Massacre uploaded a video. There is no punchline this time. KOF97 ROM hacks. Welcome back to the mysterious, whimsical, and insane world of KOF ROM hacks. There are far too many adjectives you could use to describe these hacks for better and worse. I'm your host, Lich Massacre, proud holder of a PhD in SNK because not only am I half Spanish, but I also have KOF in my name. Now, if you weren't here last time, I'd recommend you go watch part 1 even though the quality is a bit iffy. Then I'll briefly recap you. Basically, KOF is one of the most ROM-hacked video game series of all time. Is it hacked as much as the likes of Mario and Zelda, or modded as much as, say, Doom or other popular PC games? Probably not, but in the fighting game space, there is simply no other series that comes close to the amount of hacks that KOF has received. Now sure, there are mods for Street Fighter and Tekken you can download, for example, but those are mostly cosmetic changes and have only applied to the recent titles. The older titles, not nearly as much. How I'm playing these hacks is a pretty cursed CD of questionable origin, but unfortunately so far, KOF 94 and 95 have had very little to offer. And while KOF 96 had a few good hacks, the selection was mostly filler. But now we're at KOF 97. So let's not delay any further. Please welcome me on this extraordinarily overdue video where I unearth even more ridiculous KOF ROM hacks.
挫折まみれ流行に紛れ幸せなふりをして歌うもっと走れと言い聞かして無謀にもそっと風上へ
This time, we're greeted by KOF 98 artwork of Mature and Vice. 96 is their debut game, so why didn't they just use it there? Not to mention, they're completely absent from 97 because, well, you know, Iori killed them. Maybe there's irony in the choice I don't see. And okay, I'll be really honest with you guys, the music that plays during these menus has really grown on me, having already liked J-Rock. So thanks, bootleg KOF CD, I guess. I'll probably never watch Naruto regardless, but I will gladly accept this blurst gift nonetheless. The climax of the series' first saga, the Orochi saga, KOF 97 has gone on to become one of the most popular and widely played KOFs of all time, especially in China. Now yeah, China plays every KOF, but this is the game that got KOF to explode in popularity over there, thus leading them to take it very seriously. So seriously, in fact, that one player straight up stabbed someone else for doing a raw super. Now that I brightened your day with such news lovelier than a newborn baby, you can absolutely bet there are a ton of ROM hacks to look at. Over 40 of them in this video alone, in fact. Just not as violent. KOF 97 is truly one of a kind, or as the English KOF community likes to tell you, KOF 98 but worse. Yep, there is no reason to play this game at all when KOF 98 exists. Definitely not. Whatever the case, it's a beloved KOF title through and through, and is still played extensively to this day alongside KOF 98. As for me, KOF 97 is easily in my top 3 to 5 favorite KOFs, honestly. If you still haven't played it for yourself, I seriously implore you to try it. And please, do not default to the shallow mentality that it's a worse KOF 98. So then, what do these hacks have to offer? For the sake of brevity, and more importantly pacing, I'm dumping all the filler ROM hacks into this one very brief section. I'll dump the Winkawaks images at the end of the video in a closing slideshow for preservation purposes of the experience I had living through this CD. In other words, I'm just gonna talk about the ROM hacks that I have anything interesting to share and speed through the filler hacks. So without further ado, lo and behold, the filler. KOF97 10th Anniversary Chinese, 97 Baidu, 97 Bing, Bosso Day S Hack, BTX version. I'm genuinely surprised the game didn't task over crash while this was happening. Chris like 2K2, enhanced by MIT, Fallbon, Final Battle, Flame Shingo by Wesker. God damn it, Umbrella Corps is at it again. Flash 11 style. That's quite literally the only change. Hack by Neo Charity Team. Hack by Risco. Hacked with an ED by Zorjie. LB70's Chuanhang Shaman. So basically, Chuanhang is the Chinese name for KOF, so its full title literally is King of Fighters 97 LB70's King of Fighters Shaman. Rolls right off the tongue. Lover Red Hack. Turns the UI and effects red and your meter is always full. New diversion. Of course. PlayStation hack, self-explanatory, mostly just Orochi changes the entirety of the Plus lineup. Okay, so there's Plus 2006, Plus Athena by Simic Guang, Plus B, Plus Black by ZKW, Plus by Wesker, again, Plus Hack by Liang 1983, Plus Kai version, then on FB Neo there's Plus 2003, and Orochi Plus 2003. No, I did not mispronounce Orochi, it's actually called Orochi 2003. There are 10 total Plus variants. I am not talking about them all. Revised version, Xion Edition, Smoke Edition, Unfinished V by Crosslove, Shuhui plus Shuhui hack, and lastly, but absolutely not least, Yukimura hack. I am surprised this super move didn't just cause the game to completely crash into a task over by itself. And there you have it. I call these hacks filler because they either boil down to UI or very minor graphical changes, give infinite meter, change very specific details in unusual ways, change inputs around, or a mix of other features that don't culminate in much. Now, as I said in the last video, ROM hacking isn't easy, yet they still made something at the end of the day, and that's commendable. I think I might have been a bit harsh in the first part, so I don't wish to endlessly bash these hacks either. Ultimately, it's also a lot of forgettable hacks that I saw everything there is in 3 minutes. Thus, I'll just focus on the standout hacks. Especially when, despite being a KOF nerd, most I can say is they changed very specific details about certain attacks that the rant isn't worth it. Rest in peace, Flash 11 style. Rest in peace. There's a few more filler hacks for me to get out of the way, including ones on Fightcade, but not bad or pointless hacks. A number of KOF97 hacks are simply optimization fixes to patch out the awful slowdown KOF97 suffers from, especially on fire effects. Play the game long enough and you get used to it, but its smoother match performance is always appreciated. There's also KOF97 Random Optimized Edition, which simply is again an optimization fix, but with random select added as well, which takes Orochi's slot on the character select screen. It thankfully also adds hidden order select so neither player can deliberately counterpick each other or see the other player's selected order. Nothing crazy, but it's on Fightcade and with a few people who play it regularly too. Not to mention, if you're a random select enjoyer like myself when it comes to playing KOF, this hack is perfect for that when it's entirely missing in vanilla 97. Another hack, KOF97 practice mode, is self-explanatory. Kinda pointless these days with Fight Kid, but it serves its purpose nonetheless. We're at least on an already better starting point than with the first 3 KOFs. And just to make note of a few other details, every single time I loaded a 97 hack on this disc, I had to manually change the play speed from very slow back to normal, and also change the difficulty back up to MVS because someone thought this game's timer was too fast. That, and in nearly all of these hacks, I admittedly never touched extra mode to see if anything's different. For the uninitiated, here's some context. KOF97 introduced advanced mode and extra mode, essentially a difference between your meter system, how max mode functions, and your movement options with AB. Advanced further elevates the mechanical formula established in KOF96 with rolls and meter stocks, with extra mode being based around KOFs 94 and 95 using sidestep and meter charge. On the surface, it's a choice of player expression to get one's preferred playstyle and help spice the gameplay up. In reality, extra mode sucks major ass competitively. You want to take a guess as to why extra mode is awful? Well, even if you're familiar with KOF98, it's actually so much worse than that. Sidestepping still leaves you vulnerable to throws, and extra mode characters cannot break throws at all. It also just much worse to be a sitting duck to charge up for only 1 bar of meter and a movement heavy game too. That, and a forward hop is worse than a constant run forwards. And worst of all, you can't even hop in this mode, just normal and super jumps. Advanced mode is better in every way imaginable. Basically, unless the hack actually does something with extra mode, I'm talking about each hack with the context of only using advanced mode. That's all anyone ever picks in competitive settings, and for good reason. Okay, now finally, let's really talk about some hacks. Last time, I saved the anniversary hacks for last, for each game that had one, but I'll jump right in this time around. 10th Anniversary Chinese is filler, adds nothing to the gameplay itself, just this weird looking background, and Mai's character select sprite is different for whatever reason. Some optimization fixes too, that's it. 10th Anniversary by Ivex and EG8T is somewhat more amusing. The UI is different and you can cancel specials into other specials and even themselves, plus some different move properties and super cancels. You can even pick 3 of the same character for the whole team, so you can finally have 3 Shingos. But it's also buggy where the next round the clone character will only have a quarter of their life left, defeating the whole purpose. You can do some amusing combos with this hack, and some move properties are different. Apparently new moves were added too, but it's really nothing game-changing beyond some more combo variety. And we'll get there, but there's also another hack that does a better job of expanding the combo system. So definitely better than nothing. They're harmless changes, but nothing much else that's memorable either. So unfortunately, that's about where it ends for Anniversary Edition hacks. Is what I would be saying, but the next ROM hack, also titled 10th Anniversary, put a lot more passion into the moniker to make a pretty decent hack. Third time's the charm, after all. This third version of the hack that's on Fightcade, known as Build 2.1 for short, is what I'd consider the real Anniversary Edition. So right off the bat, there's some UI changes, and loading into the character select screen, we're greeted with a few surprises. Look at that! K-Dash and Kasumi are in the hack too. I mean, they look like shit since they're using their KOF99 sprites, and those obviously don't mesh with the rest of the sprites in 97, but their in-game sprites look just fine still. They take Orochi, Yuri, and Leona's spots on the character select screen to not accidentally picking boss characters, and random select was added. Hidden order select too, so no counter-picking matchups. Characters using their KOF98 portraits in the matches themselves too. Well, obviously you're not here to discuss UI changes. Where's the gameplay? So in a similar fate to KOF96 Anniversary Edition, albeit less drastic, it changes the mechanics a fair bit, but doesn't detract too much from the traditional KOF97 gameplay. Let's get some of the more specific details out of the way first. Yuri was converted into his later iterations of the character, meaning he no longer has a one-frame half-circle forward command grab, and his Rekka doesn't drag the opponent across the ground, only doing the default hard knockdown. Because damn, can that Rekka in Vanilla 97 drag your ass into the corner like there's no tomorrow. His forward A also doesn't require an immediate cancelled combo into either. And speaking of command grabs, they're all given with animations this time around and can no longer be comboed into from jump-ins like Vanilla 97, so they got toned down too. Some other character changes like Shingo being converted into his Nest form, Extra Mode thankfully being given hops, and a forward run making a viable choice against Advanced Mode, and you have the Anniversary Edition hack. Also worth noting that the mood system was removed entirely. To that extent, thankfully, there's no losing all of your meter after losing a round because the next character in your team dislikes their teammates. And one last mechanical change, I believe Ghost Step was also removed entirely, but I'm in no way an expert to Ghost Step or all of the various ways you can implement it. I just tried to do it with Yuri and it never triggered. For reference, this is Ghost Step, high level 97 tech. It's otherwise still the good old 97 experience you know and love without the massive shakeup that was 96 Anniversary Edition. I don't really get why K-Dash and Kasumi were added to this hack. I mean, they're fully welcome additions to the roster, don't get me wrong, but K-Dash is especially an odd choice. I guess with Kasumi, you could argue they're adding her back in from KOF 96, even though they're still just using her KOF 99 spray, and they probably wanted an excuse to completely get rid of the boss characters that isn't a Orochi team, all of whom are turn illegal unlike the other bosses. But with 97 also, they could have just as easily added Mature or Vice back in, or any of the boss team too, or even better, maybe add Eiji or Takuma from a 95 back. Again, I don't mind Kasumi being added. I mean, she's literally my main in Art of Fighting 3 and one of my favorite KOF characters, but it feels very cherry-picked. As for K-Dash, maybe it's just a bridge between 97 and 99 for lore. I'm rambling at this point. It's a cozy hack even if it doesn't have a lot of new variety or changes to the gameplay, which I think was also the point. It's a side grade to the vanilla experience, like how KOF 95 has its special 2017 hack as a side grade, but doesn't replace the vanilla game. Though unlike KOF 95 Special, there's still more incentive to play this hack as it adds some stuff and makes balance changes that differentiate it from vanilla 97 just enough to stand out. Whereas 95 Special, it's almost entirely quality of life changes. It's easily worth checking out 97 Anniversary if you ask me. Granted, KOF 97 is one of my favorite KOFs, and in some ways I actually prefer it over KOF 98 too, so I may be playing some favoritism, but I digress. Go check it out, it's never too late to celebrate the game's birthday. So after celebrating the 10th anniversary of KOF 97, despite being well over 15 years late to the party, I think we can all agree that this leaves more room for the KOF 97 formula to see some evolution. Because that's the next hack, KOF 97 Evolution, and there's 3 variants of it here. Base Evolution has a few interesting changes. Namely, you can manually charge up your meter in advanced mode to get a free max mode without spending an already saved up stock. But by that point, it also completely eliminates the point of extra mode too. This hack changes almost nothing about extra mode otherwise, but you can run forwards at least, and for whatever reason you're allowed to roll too, but only a forwards roll, and only during your run. Just pick advanced mode. The max mode itself runs out in just a few seconds though, and goes away entirely once you use one super, unlike vanilla where you still retain max mode regardless of the number of supers you use. I can kind of see where they were going with this idea. Charge up manually by pressing BCD and get max mode easier that way instead of manually activating it. On the flip side, they balance it out where you can only use it for a few seconds with it being a little easier to get this time too. but then at that point you'd have to immediately confirm into a combo or spend the bar right away without just using it soon after. So that's where the max mode activation itself comes into play, where pressing ABC lets you do an unblockable activation state you can combo from. A neat idea, but charging up doesn't give you this benefit, which makes me feel like the only worthwhile use of max mode is activating it manually and while your opponent is basically breathing down your neck. Kind of a baffling design choice regarding everything related to max mode, but speaking of baffling design choices, you can call your teammates. Press BCD and they can both tag in even if they're knocked out and knock your opponent out of the way into a knockdown. You can even interrupt them if you're the one being attacked. So really, you can summon them whenever, and as far as I can tell, there's hardly any cooldown either. With some special move changes, as always in these hacks, and you have evolution. You can press start to change colors too, which then lets the new face team swap into their Orochi forms, which I guess is neat. It's kind of a hard sell of a hack, but it has a few neat ideas to be fair. It didn't keep my interest for long though, with it feeling too unfocused in what it wanted to shake up about the KOF97 formula. Or I guess more specifically, it just feels like there's this conflicting design of utilizing max mode and meter to forcefully open up your opponent to do combos, yet also penalizing you with a small timer. Add onto that how tagging in your opponents can be laughably spammed, and it can turn into a war of attrition in a sense. The next few variants didn't help much either. On an unrelated note, you can sometimes find that the AI in these hacks gets jacked up in difficulty, but it depends on the hack too. I noticed that was happening in this hack, that the AI was harder to beat in general, despite that KOF97 is one of the easiest KOFs to beat arcade mode. Though it could also have just been me, as I'm flailing around to capture stuff for the video. Usually the AI is made tougher by doing legitimate optimized combos or reading your inputs even harder. Going back to the other two variants, Evolution by Yashiono was even more questionable to me. Okay, to get this rant out of the way right now, the input reader in this hack is disgustingly lenient. I mean, okay, you thought KOF15's input reader being loose was bad, you think Street Fighter 6 having an obnoxiously loose input reader and super long buffer is a sin against humanity? Well, okay, I totally agree with you, but that's not the point. This hack blows all modern fighting games out of the water, as you can do entire quarter circle motions by just pressing down and either down diagonal input and the special will come out. Want to crouch block and punish your opponent with a crouch button? Pray to God that the game doesn't interpret it as a special move, or else you're in an even worse position. Want to do Terry's down forward C command roll after crouching glide attacks? Screw you, you're getting Power Wave. I straight up do not feel as though I have genuine control over my characters playing this hack because of how deliberately loose it is. It may not look like it, but I swear that half these special moves are not intentional. For that alone, I can't stand this hack. For casual players who suck at doing motions, this is probably a godsend, and to be fair, it can be. However, KOF97's input reader is already loose as it is, and noticeably more lenient than KOF98. I really don't think any fighting game player, even more casual KOF fans, are going to struggle doing inputs as it is in the vanilla game. Well, otherwise, a lot of the changes as you can find in the vanilla edition are not to be found here. The most notable change is throw breaking makes it so that you can punish your opponent further as the throw break stuns them briefly, allowing you to do a full combo punish. This sounds like a good idea in theory, but this makes it that unless your opponent is bad at throw breaks or doesn't expect a throw, doing any basic throw is just asking for you to be punished back. If it costs a meter, then it'd be fine in my book. Or maybe one hit and it air resets like a raw Shadow Strike in KOF15. Another awkward hack otherwise. And the final version is called Evolution Shin Edition, but has less changes than Vanilla Evolution to the point I can only call it filler. One last detail worth mentioning is that on Fightcade, there does exist a lobby for KOF97 Evolution New, but I'm still not entirely sure what makes this different from regular Evolution. This video by Combone showcases it a fair bit though, and includes details about what the changes in this hack are. I tried playing it for myself and it didn't feel especially different, but at the very least you can play it for yourself on Fightcade. I may not have been too pleased playing the evolution lineup of hacks, but I say at least play it yourself on Fightcade to get your own opinion on the hacks. Just, you may have to dig a bit to find the ROM hack in question for, legal reasons. Well, okay, maybe there was a bit too much evolution there. Maybe we need to de-evolve a little bit and catch a break. Ivex's combo 2006 and 2010 sounds pretty interesting. I wonder what kinds of changes you'll out. Oh, it doesn't work. Well, I'm not disabling my antivirus to try and figure out what this is either. Great preview images. This tells me absolutely nothing about the hack in question, but maybe there's a marketing strategy. But in reality, the internet went down for me one night, and because Windows antivirus wasn't giving me a trillion warnings, I figured I'd try it out. And lo and behold, it actually worked this time. But I could barely notice anything different. UI is different. I could do some joke combos you cannot do in Vanilla 97. It was pretty basic overall. And no, this checkerboard transparent looking UI is not pretty to look at. Seriously, whoever thought this was a good idea to make the UI overall harder to look at, just why? But I don't want to end it there with this hack because here's the weird thing with this hack. So on FB Neo, and on Fightcade for that matter since there's a lobby for it, there's a hack called KOF97 Combo Training. What the training part means is beyond me, but I think they're the exact same hack. Same UI, same combo rules added into the game, and as far as I can tell, they're not different hacks. Maybe there's something I missed. I'm willing to bet there was. But why are they named differently if they're not different from each other then? Was Combo Training the final name the ROM hackers settled on? I would try to look for this info, but God knows where I even begin to try and find the origins, as search engines give me absolutely nothing. My best guess, it originates from China. Some good news though, this hack actually enhances extra mode a little. It adds hops so characters can actually jump properly, and that's neat, you can attack out of forward and backdashes. Well, surely this doesn't mean any infinites will come out of this. I mean, KOF isn't that broken. But wait a moment. Oh no. That also means... Nah, it's probably nothing. I'm just overthinking it. I'll give what I feel is a more fair assessment of the hack though. Because yes, I do agree it's pretty basic for what it really is. The main selling point is mostly just special and super cancels you normally can't do otherwise, and a wider combo system. That's not a bad thing at all. Regular KOF players or even just fighting game players can easily squeeze more playtime out of KOF97 with a change as small as that, as the increased combo potential definitely keeps things fairly fresh without deviating from KOF97's core game. However, that's also the exact same reason why more casual players would not get anything out of this hack. Chances are, casuals just want to do cool flashy attacks, whatever sounds like fun to them without really diving into the nitty-gritty of the fighting game in question. Special and super cancels mean nothing to them if they're not really playing around with combos to begin with, or learning the game at a deeper level. In fact, I'm jumping the gun a bit here, but that's kinda how I feel about the majority of KOF97 hacks, that they're definitely appealing to competitive players, but for casuals, they're a harder sell. But don't take my word for it, I don't really have enough casual friends to do a test trial with for these hacks to gauge their opinions, and of course, I'm not a casual myself. I can only say what I think would be the general thought process for them. This kind of hack adds nothing new or immediately apparent otherwise, just changing the underlying rules of the game if you were already playing by them to begin with. But I digress. Going back to the original point, the ugly UI aside that I wish didn't even exist to begin with, if you're a hardcore KOF player already, this is definitely worth the playtime just to see the more nuanced changes and bending the rules a little bit. Moving on to this KOF97 Invincible Plus hack? Well, strange name, but let's boot it up nonetheless. The preview image for the lobby on Fightcade looks pretty interesting to say the least, with the ominous blue background. I wonder what's in store. What's with Goku doing here? Why is it GT Goku? Oh, we're just not gonna acknowledge Goku then? That'd be like if I just randomly started my KOF video off with Ghost in the Shell images. Well, anyways, UI is already fairly different, if maybe a little too blue and purple. The portraits everyone has are different for some reason, and Chizuru's is just ripped directly from KOF 2003. And wait, Gainitz and Omega Rugal? Yeah, for some reason they're selectable here. Rugal's sprite being taken from KOF 98 and Gainitz from KOF 98 UM. And spoiler warning, they're not toned down at all, but I would be more surprised if they were to begin with. I mean, I do dig this character select screen and it fits the Orochi aesthetic, but why change the miniature portraits? They just kinda look worse now. Order select is also slanted at an angle this time, but no hidden order select. Loading into the stage and we're greeted with some uncanny vibes from the stages. It's not completely new, but it's a drastic tonal shift from the default stage. In fact, this whole hack is full of original stages. To what extent they're completely original or borrowed from other stages, I'm not sure, but it's pretty refreshing. And now this... Man, everyone is a hell of a lot faster this time around, just with forward runs alone. It's like they're all cracked up on some cocaine. But gameplay wise, this kinda just feels like the combo training hacks, just more polished and also more janky. Even extra mode functions the same as those hacks. Assuming you're to pick Gainitz and Rugal deliberately, then yes, this hack is incredibly unbalanced as you're obviously playing with boss characters. Assuming you know what you're doing with them, of course. Not that that's a bad thing, unbalanced and broken jank is a very healthy thing for the fighting game sphere, as we all need that fixed somewhere. They're fun additions at least. It's a pretty unusual hack that I'm not sure what the focal point was, but if I had to guess, the blisteringly fast movement speed alone makes it stand out a little as everyone has it. Maybe they were going for far more rushdown and aggressive space control than you usually see in KOF. I recommend playing it once at least, and the good news is both this and the combo training hacks are on Fightcade. So you can play either the vanilla combo training experience or play something a little more deliberately wild with Invincible Plus. Again, I'm biased towards KOF97, maybe I'm overhyping this hack, but it's a fun hack, and that's the more important part. Actually, you know what? Let's just go back to even simpler times, where we were mere cavemen and enjoy a simpler hack for the palate. No combo rules or anything of the sort, no esports, just the bare bones fun of turning your brain off and enjoying what's in front of you, no matter how messed up it is. Okay, maybe we went too far back. So next is the elusive King of Gladiators, or my bad, King of Gladiator. I'm going to just drop my only thought right now. What is there to even say about this hack? I have to talk about it, being one of the more infamous KOF ROM hacks out there. It's such a bizarre bootleg of a game that you wonder how its creation even came to be on the surface, but the actual contents of the bootleg itself are so run-of-the-mill that it's questionable how it got the notoriety of being that one KOF hack. And of course, I have to mention that there's 3 versions here too, but one of them is just a bug fix of the Plus variant, which, why even include the original version of Plus at that point then? I'm only talking about King of Gladiators as a whole for brevity, or my bad again, King of Gladiator. Actually, screw it, I'm just calling it Gladiators with an S. But also because they're hardly different to begin with. So immediately from the get-go, the intro is entirely different, using music that's not even from KOF, and with the KOF97 logo just awkwardly sitting in the middle. No, I did not edit that in. The title screen also ripped sprites from KOF 2000. I guess aesthetically, the bulky Sega Model 1-like physiques of everyone in KOF 97 wouldn't fit with what the ROM hack is going for, so the creators resorted to using 2000 sprites. But if memory serves right, I had heard that this hack was apparently finished and created in 2003, making it 6 or so years after KOF 97 was released. I can't even speculate that this was a bootleg to pirate from a legitimate copy of KOF 97 because it's already been out for so long by that point. They had to have made the deliberately choice to not only copy assets directly from KOF 2000, but also modify the game and try to make it more interesting to play. But for what reason this hack exists, I have no clue. I mean, they certainly put some effort into the title screen alone, I'll give them that much. Loading into the character select screen gives the most putrid color mixing for a character select screen I've seen, with Billy Kahn's theme playing. Poor Billy. And there's a lot of duplicate character choices here for some reason. So, I guess I'll pick Mai, Shermie, and Blue Mary then. I'll just pick these entries way off to the side, and it doesn't even let us pick the order ourselves. It just forcibly orders the team to what order we selected the characters. But okay, the match is starting. Let's see what's new. Oh, okay. Nudity. That's it! That's the ROM hack! That's just... That's it! That's the ROM hack! That's just a thinly veiled porn mod! The actual characters you pick are either just their default selves or their hyper souped up versions, where they're way faster and packing much uglier color palettes, which then defaults back to normal after the round ends anyway. And sometimes the game just decides it doesn't want to give you a certain character. The timer just straight up froze, yet I can still pick a character. And what gives? The game completely ignored the fact that I picked Benimaru. KOG Plus lets you select your own order though, thankfully. But seriously, that's the entire hack despite saying a lot about it already. It's basically just a mishmash of mismatched assets, a bunch of sped up characters from the roster, very questionable color palettes, and nudity. The gameplay itself here has basically not in any way changed, only further bewildering me as to how this hack came to be or why it lives in infamy. The crazy thing to me is that somewhere out there, this is someone's favorite version of KOF97 to play. Like, for all I know, this shitpost of a hack has tech buried underneath it that I don't know about, but I had to spend all this time talking about it due to its notoriety. For like one session maybe, and for shits and giggles, I guess you could play this hack and have fun at the absurdity of it with your friends, but the charm of everything else that isn't the questionably made nude sprites just gets old really fast. Hopefully you see what I mean by it not being that interesting though. It didn't stop me from milking it for the sake of content, but my point stands. It's just a chaotic creation of mankind with no place to call home, forever haunting the online spaces of Neo Geo as the hack your family told you to stay away from. If you can find any reason to play KOG at all these days, then all the power to you, but that's a hard sell. If you ever decide to play it, just save yourself the hassle and play KOG Plus Fixed if you can. And lastly, a lot of hacks just take the nude sprites from here and inject them into other hacks for no rhyme or reason. I mentioned earlier, too, that KOF97 Baidu Edition is a filler hack, and it is. It feels like the King of Gladiators at Home hack, but this... well, that's a Kasumi Ninja reference if I've ever seen one. Vanilla Evolution also uses the nude sprites, which just further docks points off of that hack in my eyes. I get it. KOF is a horny series in general, and SNK is completely aware of this. I'm not complaining about that fact. It's just, who are the nude sprites for? In closing, yes, KOF97 finally got the sex update. We've seen some pretty bizarre hacks and bootlegs, but KP2000 is perhaps the most mysterious mechanically. It's so bizarre, in fact, that I will use this ROM hack as the excuse for why this video took so long to make. But seriously, there's the innovative hacks, the pointless hacks, the goofy hacks, and then there's hacks like these I can't properly describe. But I mean that in a mostly good way. And of course, to make matters worse, since KOF97 doesn't have a proper training mode, it makes it harder to lab out as a result too. And yes, I could also use save states and just repeatedly load back into them, or even use UniBIOS cheats, but dissecting these games to their fullest is diverting from the point of these videos. But I did try using UniBIOS cheats and Infinite Strikers. This isn't the NES Saga, you're telling me this game has strikers? Well, unfortunately I never figured out what the setting meant, but even UniBIOS cheats didn't work because even though I enabled infinite time, the timer ran out anyways, because of course it would. So on the surface, it doesn't look wholly different from Vanilla 97, but there's a ton of new features added that because of the lack of info in English and the vague info text file on the disk itself bewilders me. So UI-wise, It's pretty different, if a little difficult to read. Standard ROM hack fare. Gameplay looks standard too, but this is where the info text file comes into handy, sort of. It doesn't completely outline every detail, but it thankfully at least mentions the controls and a couple points of interest. To the best of my ability, let me break down everything in this hack. There's an air combo system by pressing BCD, and then in order, A, B, C, and D. But it doesn't even work half the time, as the roster's air buttons were never designed for such a system. It just yeets your opponent away, and you can maybe connect a few hits in the air, or spam it and cause some painfully obnoxious flashing to occur. And to add on top of that, pressing BC midair lets you air dash. Seriously, you get an air dash in this hack, and Yuri's does a pre-canned attack, but Terry's doesn't for some reason. With Terry, you have to manually press a button to do an attack instead, but you land so slowly that you can't combo from it. And guess what? It's not the only air dash either. Seriously, you can just hop forwards or backwards for some reason during a jump. You can charge your meter too, a la extra mode style, and get free max mode. Which, speaking of, 2002 style max mode cancels are now possible too. Well, also, sort of. Sometimes it just does this weird flinch instead of canceling into max mode, and not to mention I don't think any changes were made to actually accommodate it, since like 2002, you have to manually run after max mode activation if you cancel into it during a combo, but I couldn't get any max mode combos anyway, despite the fact I can consistently BC run myself. BC by itself also does the double roll, and pressing forward BC does the double roll, but both times forward. And of course, you still press AB to do the roll. Actually, let's talk about that real quick, because the regular rolls are what you expect for KOF, nothing was changed. And if you're even a smidge familiar with KOF on a competitive level, you know it's the kind of game you can jump all day and the movement is extremely important to get good at. So what does this have to do with the roll? Well, you see, you can roll mid-air in this game, and I genuinely cannot understand why this is here. If you roll during a neutral jump too, then you very slightly nudge forwards a little, enough to outspeed a snail at least. Now let's go back to jumping and why this addition seems so questionable. KOF97 lets you air block, however you can only do this during neutral and backwards jump, and it takes off way more block meter when you block an attack. For those situations, I can see an air roll being a viable option to save block meter, and maybe reposition yourself if you really know how to use it. But forward jumps, look, jumping in KOF is already heavily encouraged. Not terribly committal, and empty jumps alone are a very powerful mix-up in KOF for opening up your opponent. You're telling me that an air roll forwards doesn't somehow rub salt on the wound? These jumps are already good, and now they're even better as you can basically air roll, iframe through attacks, and as far as I can tell you can't really punish it, so you basically get to empty jump for free. And sure, the audio cue would give that away, but you could also just empty jump. But okay, there's obviously other uses like baiting out anti-airs or DPs and then punishing your opponent when they land, which then in turn makes punishing air attacks even harder. Reason being, you cannot tell when your opponent is going to raw empty jump or air roll or just do an aerial attack. Maybe I'm thinking way too hard about this, but it's there though, and it's certainly a ROM hack edition. Wanna attack out of backdash or do Iori Taco backdash? That's here too, go wild with it. Advanced mode can even do extra mode sidesteps too, but again, sort of. Basically everyone's move lists were changed around and a lot of attacks were converted to command normals by pressing back and a button, which in turn does some weird stuff. Iori gets a double fireball and can teleport by tearing the fabric of reality. There's other examples, but a lot of them boil down to doing a sidestep or roll and then an attack. There's no consistency to my knowledge. Last, but definitely not least, obligatory super changes. And Kyo, you've seen better days with that color palette to say the least. Extra mode got no changes, unfortunately, but I can only imagine if it did, just how absurd it would all be. You can hop into attacks like a backdash, but that was covered in other hacks. Now all the other hacks I would try to say something about how it compares to normal KOF, or how it's a good or bad hack as a showcase besides just preserving their existence. I'm a KOF nut and always will be, but this hack, I mean, what do I say? It's not offensively bad, but a lot of it too, I had to figure out from trial and error because this info doc didn't do much to explain it either. And looking up info on this hack in English is basically impossible because no one has easy access to these niche hacks, let alone playing them. There's a version here, and the team behind it clearly wanted to shake up the KOF formula intensely, and yet nearly every edition is so half-baked too. Clueless as to how you put it all together, and yet I have to know more. And I don't have a good analogy to describe this weird mix of emotions either. All I think I can really do is just encourage people to seek the hack out and try it for themselves, assuming they can, because it's so ridiculous once you actually try to play it for yourself. My gameplay footage doesn't do it much justice, and I still can't figure out how to make it look smooth. It's all just me fucking around with the mechanics, hoping I make some cool combo or crazy movement shenanigans or something. I'm at a loss for words other than it may be a work of art that must be displayed at a museum. When writing for the script of this video, anytime I tried to find info on a KOF hack or find more material to cover, I would end up just finding even more hacks. KOF97 hacks are their own special little rabbit hole inside the KOF ROM hack rabbit hole, and unfortunately, a lot of the hacks I straight up can't even figure out how to play or find where to get them to begin with, leaving me with nothing but YouTube to discover them. But if I had to guess, a lot of them come from sketchy CDs that are passed around if this disc that I'm using is anything to go by. If you have a more informed explanation where these hacks keep coming from, feel free to share in the comments below. Still, I figured I'd at least mention them. Whether they're filler or not, or something extremely impressive, I can't tell and I can only guess. There's this hack, Triple Impact, KOF97 Plus Hack Mode Q Extreme Solo, KOF97 Super Hack, and now the King of Fighter 97 Hack Ultimate Super Battle Update version 2021. I guess these hacks are taking up the mantle of having anime names. The King of Fighters 97 Hack Invincible Plus version 2.0 2021. Hack Special Orochi Zero Boss Power, and then there's Hack Rugal Edition. Okay, I think you get the point now. Only God knows where all these hacks came from. And finally, there's this one hack which changes nothing, but for some reason, Ken Masters from Street Fighter and Clara from Power Instinct are in the game now. But the weird thing is, they're just sprite swaps for Ryo and Yuri instead. I guess Ken sort of makes sense being a tongue-in-cheek reference to how Ryo copied both Ryu and Ken by Clara. I'm a Power Instinct fan and I don't see the correlation. But this video here that shows it exists somewhere out there only has Ken, but no Clara. It's his Street Fighter 2 sprite too, which looks horribly out of place, and my god that looks ugly. I commend the effort, but yikes. But hold on. Ken Masters is in the game. The Barbie movie was recently released in theaters. Ken is in there too. Well, okay, it's not the same Ken. He's played by Ryan Gosling, who is a masterful actor in his own right. He's a bit of a social goofball, and I happen to be one also. KOF, Barbie, this ROM hack, Ken, Ryan Gosling, Kenergy. Oh my god, he's literally me! Well, phew. We've finally gotten through all the KOF97 hacks. I'm of the opinion that these hacks are basically on the same level as KOF96 hacks in terms of quality, but I do mean that in a good way outside of the filler. Though that doesn't necessarily mean the filler is bad either, unlike the previous 3 games, just there's more of it. And perhaps, maybe an overwhelming amount of hacks. There's way too many of these hacks, I can't cover them all. I had always envisioned when I started this project that I would include the KOF98 hacks with KOF97 as a duo pack video, but I decided it was for the better not to. If you thought the KOF97 hacks I talked about today were impressive, the KOF98 hacks are on an entirely separate dimension that frankly, I don't even know where to begin with them. And KOF98 too has a ridiculous amount of hacks to shovel through. So next part of this KOF ROM hack marathon, KOF98's getting its own separate video as it's far too much goofiness for this one video alone to do justice. Don't believe me? Well, just wait and see. KOF97 is a fun game, so go have fun playing it. And even if you've never played it before, KOF is a legacy series at the end of the day, so if you're familiar with 98, you have a good enough base to start from. And once you really learn the game yourself, you can see how 97 is its own unique game and maybe even further appreciate the ROM hacks attached to it and the overwhelmingly high praise it gets worldwide in the KOF fanbase. If you ask me, subscribing to my channel and sticking around for more SNK related videos sounds like a good pitch massacre. I mean, that sounds like a good pitch, and my name is Lich Massacre. Thank you for watching, and go play some KOF 97.